Hey folks, it's Bud in Manchester, New Hampshire, and I thought I'd put together a video on how to select the right Paul Buff product for you. And today we're going to discuss the DigiBee, the Alien Bee B800, and the Einstein. And in the previous videos, I went into the features of all of these, and they're all super awesome, right? You really can't make a bad choice. The question becomes, how do you make the right choice? First off, I'd recommend you pick up the phone and call them. Really, call the folks down at Paul Buff. Lori's their customer service manager, but anyone who picks up the phone is more than knowledgeable on all the products and can help steer you in the right direction. A video like this one, there's a limit to understanding what your particular needs are, but I can generalize a bit. Right now, we're at an interesting point where the cheapest item, the Alien Bee at $280, and the Einstein is at $500. Now, before we go too far, I have to point out that the difference between them is $220. Now, that sounds like a lot of money when I say $220. If I took the money out, put it on the table, you think that's a lot of money. But in photographic terms, in studio photography terms, that actually isn't a ton of money. I realize that some folks come from a position where $220 might as well be the world. But again, I find it interesting that folks who are concerned about the $220 are usually having that conversation to me while they're holding a top-of-the-line full-frame DSLR with a 2.8 70 to 200 lens. All in is probably the best part of $6,000. So again, your mileage may vary. But all that said, really, who are these lights for? Well, right now, we're in an interesting position where we have the older light, the first generation Alien Bee, and the newest one, the next generation digital Bee, called the DigiBee B800, where they're really not far apart in price. So that said, I think for most people, you shouldn't be considering the Alien Bee at this point. Now, I say that because, but if you are someone who the difference in price point between these two items is, I think, about $70, the shipping would be the same. If you're at a point where $70 is a ton of money, you might consider this light, or perhaps you could consider the Alien Bee if you have a bunch of other Alien Bees, you want to keep them all the same, this sort of situation, or you're someone who appreciates the simplicity of the slider and the lack of digital controls, because I do run into customers who really up, down, what you see is what you got, simple, you really can't argue with the value in this product. But I think most customers are probably better off served with either the Einstein or the DigiBee. So the DigiBee is interesting in that its price point is very close to the Einstein. So here's what it comes down to. For the average customer buying just one, two, or maybe even three lights, the Einstein is still the best value. No doubt about it. At $500, this light has all the features, all the abilities, everything you want, and more importantly, one stop of power more than the DigiBee. And that's the crux of the problem. If you shoot in a studio with very large light modifiers and you want to back them away from your subject a little bit to get a full-length shot, you're going to find that you're going to want that 640 watt-seconds of power, a full measure of power. This is half the power of the DB800. Now again, for most people in most usages, they're going to find that this has enough power. What I'm saying is that really the price difference for what you get isn't enough to lean me towards the DigiBee for most folks. Now that said, there are folks that are dipping their toe into the water. There are folks that they want to add a third light to their existing lighting setup, or perhaps they're just undecided. In that case, you might be better off with something like the DigiBee. You still get the digital controls, you get an LED modeling lamp should that become useful to you for perhaps video, or just you want to keep the heat down in your studio like we do here, in which case the DigiBee is definitely the way to go. So recapping, Einstein, Alien Bee, and the DigiBee are all awesome. Definitely contact customer service if you have questions at the Paul Buff Company. They're great. They will definitely steer you in the right direction. But right now, I'm leaning people to the Einstein, as I always have, and I'm leaning less towards the Alien Bee. And I say that because the price difference between these two is too slight not to just go with the DigiBee. Now, I want to point out, there are a couple of special purposes. If you like to shoot very, very short flash durations, and these are you know, the folks swinging objects through the air, or splashes of water. You're more that experimental photographer. Just buy the Einstein. You will not be happy with these lights in that particular scenario. And for the price difference, honestly, go with the Einstein. If you are the person who wants to travel with your light, take pictures here and there, you're doing headshot sessions between New York and LA, and you want a lightweight, compact light that'll get it done in most 85–90% of those situations, pick up a DigiBee. Don't even look back. Really, you're going to love it. Really, no problem. If you're the person who likes to take you're going to buy one light. You're new to all this, you're going to buy one light. Really, I would point you either way, Einstein or DigiBee. However, if you're going to be the type of person that shoots indoors and outdoors, Einstein. Einstein all day long. And the reason is really quite simple. One more stop of power to compete with that sunlight. I should point out in that particular situation, there is a light we haven't talked about, which you should give consideration to. Instead of the Alien Bee B800, consider the Alien Bee B1600. And these are the lights that we rent out the most here for location work. They have the same amount of power as the Einstein at 640 watt-seconds, and most of the same weight too, right? So they're still not heavy, but heavier than these lights are. But the Alien Bee B1600, for $120 less, gets you the same amount of power. The only downside, of course, is that you don't have the short flash durations and you're back to this manual slider. Still a great value in any of these lights. I don't think you can make a bad choice. The real question is, what's the most right choice for you? If we can help you out, let us know. It's Bud at the SOPHA here in Manchester, New Hampshire. Have a good day.